Hey guys, welcome to the Sell to the CFO free mini-series. In this mini-series of videos, you're going to learn exactly how to sell to CFOs, chief financial officers, in an economic downturn, given that they have to approve almost every deal in this economic climate. In this first video, you're going to learn 5 value buckets that get CFOs to spend money in this economic climate. And then you're going to learn how to position your SaaS solution to align with one of those 5 value buckets and get on the CFO's radar. So the way this video is going to work is we're going to hear from 3 CFOs of billion-dollar businesses about these 5 value buckets that I just mentioned, why they resonate with them, and how you can position yourself to get on their radar. After we hear from those CFOs from a few minutes, we're then going to zoom out. We're going to summarize the tips, tactics, strategies, and insights that you can immediately start using to close more deals and sell your way through this economic climate. Let's hear from these 3 CFOs now.
Is what buckets of value tend to resonate with CFOs and get top of mind versus what is on the periphery, Tim, as you just mentioned. It sounds like one of the value drivers, if you're in the right phase of company and if this is top of mind, is IPO readiness. So we're going to talk about a few more of those. I'm going to tee up a few that I've identified in my own research. We're going to react to that, and then we're going to have a conversation about it. So based on the research I've done so far, which involves interviewing CFOs, Michael, you were one of them, selling to CFOs and just drawing on my historical experience, I've identified 4 value buckets, right? And I realize these are kind of generic and we could beat all of these up, and they do have to be specific to your priorities. But number 1, cost reduction without sacrificing too much. Number 2, maximizing productivity, which is what we talked about earlier, getting more from what you already have instead of pulling out all the stops for growth at all costs. Number 3, growing, but growing efficiently, right? When you do see some of those indicators that you guys mentioned tick up a little bit in the positive direction, how can you accelerate that in a way that still maintains efficiency in your business? And then 4th and finally, mitigating risk, right? Regulatory compliance, et cetera. So to what extent do those 4 categories, and I'll go back to them so that they're in front of us, resonate with you guys? And then what would you add? What would you take away? Tim, let's start with you.
Yeah, these are almost perfectly aligned. I have 4. I reduce cost and maximize productivity. I blend those 2 together. Right? People come to me, I ask them a question. It can be only in 4 categories. Are we going to grow revenue? Are we going to reduce cost? Do we have to do it from a regulatory legal compliance perspective? Or is it going to improve employee or customer happiness or satisfaction? So I added that 4th one, if you will, and I merged your first 2 together. Mm-hmm. And what I would say in this environment, it's interesting. We get this question all the time. In this environment, it's much more focused on reducing cost than grow revenue, because as you show in your text here, those growing revenues can be pretty fuzzy, right? It's pretty hard to get commitment versus if you can say, hey, I'm going to reduce my headcount spend by X if you give me Y dollars to implement this tool. That's an easy ROI problem. It's an easy ROI problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things I've noticed with so many sales tech and MarTech providers in the world, right? There are thousands, is the revenue, grow revenue value category is really solid if you can make a strong argument, but it's almost like everybody becomes blind to it. Because everybody's saying, like my LinkedIn widget, this is going to help skyrocket your business or whatever it is. Michael, what additional insight would you have on this, if any?
Yeah, I think these all make perfect sense for sure. And I think if I threw kind of a generality in on top of it would be anything that almost anything, whether it's in these categories or something beyond them, anything that allows me for a low cost way to test and learn whether or not this thing is going to work is going to be super helpful. Like if I see hey, we want to sell you a new service and here's our 3-year subscription, non-cancelable. And I'm like, I don't even know if this thing is going to work. And so So to the extent, whether it's in these categories or something beyond, if it's, whether it's, a one-time early right for a termination for convenience or a POC or something that can at least demonstrate that it's going to work, that will, at least for me, I'm kind of like I'm willing to try anything if it's not that expensive and give it a go to try to, kind of prove or disprove whether or not it's going to work would be the one thing I'd add.
So a couple ways to translate that into some sales tips for the audience. Number one, what I'm hearing is while you should not sell scared and sell from a place of fear, don't get greedy, right? If you can only take down a small piece of the logo to prove your value, take it. Especially if you're a new vendor, asking for 3-year deals or even 2-year deals in this economic environment is probably not going to go well unless you are very, very fundamental to that business's tech stack. I had a second thing, but I completely forgot what it was going to be, but I swear it was going to be really intelligent. So we're just going to move on. Jim, this one's for you. So furthering the conversation on value categories, I'm curious, I'm not asking what's on Drift's priority slide, obviously, but more so just make this generic for most CFOs. What do you think is on most CFOs' priority slides right now? Is it similar to some of the metrics that you mentioned earlier about economic indicators, revenue per rep and what have you, or help us understand generally what's top of mind for most CFOs?
Yeah, I think it, not to go back, but I think it is those kind of metrics of how's the business, running and scaling, and when can we step on the gas or look at stepping on the gas in certain areas. I think we do kind of, we go down to another level, at least we are at Drift, we're going to another level that says, okay, if I got productivity per rep, and it's starting to hit, the right numbers, we're exactly as it hitting the right numbers. Is it in enterprise? Is it in mid-market? Is it in SMB? Is it in Europe, right? And those are the areas we then want to say, okay, then maybe we do step on the gas a little bit here, or in other areas where we're missing, then we pull our foot off the gas a little bit, right, and hit the brakes. So I think the metrics, they haven't changed. How to, you look at these, you establish these KPIs to understand how your business is doing and when to step on the gas and when to take your foot off the gas. And you may alter them a little bit over time, but those are the key metrics. I think the one thing we also talked about was churn, right? Our customers, we look at customer churn, and I think Tim mentioned it, one of the 4 blocks, he'd invest in customer sat. We would do the same, right? We want to invest in customer sat, and we know selling to an existing customer is easier than selling to a new customer. So we want to have those levels high enough so that when comes time for a customer to expand, we're going to be on the sort of right side of that chart, which to be able to expand.
So I have this question planned for later in the presentation, but it's so natural to ask it right now. Not the one on the slide. We'll come back to this in a second. But when it comes to a value category that a CFO does not own, functionally, right? Improving SAT and improving employee engagement, some of those other things. How do you guys want to be involved in a sales cycle like that? Let's say it's a legitimate value prop. You believe that your team should be evaluating it. Do you want to be totally excluded from the sales cycle? Because a lot of the pain salespeople are dealing with right now is, how do I get access to the CFO? And is that even the right question that they should be asking? Do you want to give yourself access in these kind of situations? Help us unpack that question.
I have a strong opinion on that one, Chris.
All right, so let's summarize the 5 value categories that get CFOs to spend money today. Number 1 is IPO readiness. Now you have to be careful with this one. This only works if timing is right. If this company is skating towards an IPO and you have a solution that can get them IPO ready, you are very likely to get on the CFO's radar. If they're not skating toward an IPO, then obviously number 1 is not going to make sense. Number 2, cost reduction / maximizing productivity. If you can eliminate cost from the CFO's P&L by reducing headcount or something like that, or if you can help them get more productivity out of the same amount of spend out of what they already have, then you are very, very likely to get on the CFO's radar. Number 3, grow revenue efficiently. CFO's postures from when it comes to revenue has gone from pull out all the stops and grow at all costs to only grow revenue if it's efficient. So if your solution can help a company grow revenue efficiently, you've got a solid case. But I will say you have to be rock solid with these cases because so many vendors are making the case that they can grow revenue. And frankly, most of them are long shots and very fuzzy business cases, which we'll talk about a little bit more in video number 3 in this series. Okay, number 4 is regulatory compliance or mitigating risk. If they have to do it from the perspective of compliance, regulatory, or mitigating risk, you can probably get on their radar. There is likely going to be a timing aspect to that one. And then 5th and final is a combination bucket of improving employee engagement and improving customer satisfaction, as they say, CSAT. CFOs are very worried in this economic climate about losing their talent and losing their customers. So if you can align with helping them improve employee satisfaction or improve customer satisfaction, then you're going to go very far. Now, those are the 5 value buckets. I want you to stay tuned for video number 2. Here's why. We're going to talk about how to get access to CFOs and how to get CFOs involved in your deal and whether or not that's even the right question to ask. You can see that at the tail end of that interview a few minutes ago, I started asking how should sellers get you involved in deals going forward. And Tim chimed in with a very strong opinion. And then the other 2 chimed in as well. We're going to hear exactly what they say. And you're going to walk out of video number 2 with word for word talk tracks and deal tactics. Wow, I'm butchering my words today, to get CFOs involved and close more deals in this economic climate. So stay tuned for video 2. It's going to hit your inbox in just a couple days, and I will see you then. Thanks, guys.